Welcome back for another Spaulding feature. I'm here with Stephanie Lampron. Stephanie Lampron and I go back many years to 2016, believe it or not, when we first worked together on building the Central School of the Arts here in Central Ontario. We're going to go through that in a little bit. But before we get there, Stephanie, welcome.
Thank
as
you.
always.
Nice to see you.
And tell us a little bit about you. Love to get to know you a little bit.
So I come from a teaching background. I was in the public system. I was an art teacher and I taught down in the city, and we had children, so I decided to quit that job and come up to the country and raise my kids up here.
Okay.
And now I met Damien along the way, and we kind of collaborated very, very many years ago, it seems.
I know. A lot of water has gone under that bridge.
Yeah.
You know, there's been so much that's happened over the last number of years. So you're in Toronto. I don't remember that.
I was in like Mississauga, Oakville area. Yeah. And
okay.
then I lived in Oakville, taught in Mississauga, and then I came up to Barrie probably 16 years ago.
Right.
Area. And then so I stayed home with my kids for a while, and then when they got a little bit older, that's when I met you, and I was like, I got to get back into the teaching thing, but maybe in a different way.
Right. And we met because of the newspaper article, I believe, right?
Yeah, I saw you in the newspaper.
Yes. But for those of you that don't know, back, I guess 2016, right? There was a high school in town, Central High School, which was a phenomenal school. We've gone back over 100 years, I believe, in town.
Yeah,
it was a big heritage thing.
Yeah.
And it was awesome because they had a auditorium and they had everything from the automotive wing. It was a high school, a pretty big high school. I don't know, probably had 1,000 people, I think, or something like that.
It was quite
a good
large.
number, 500, 800 people. And I did a whisper, and I said to one parent, I said, it'd be really cool if someone took the high school that's closing because it was enough, the public system wasn't going to spend more money on keeping it. If someone took that school and turned it into the K-12 like School of the Arts, kind of like Fame in the 1980s.
Yeah.
And that parent said, that parent happened to be a vice principal of a public school as well. And she said, David, you got to do that. I'm like, no, if someone else did this. She said, but no, David, you got to do it. And so it started spinning in the back of my mind. And then I bumped into another parent as well, a mover and shaker in the region. Can I get in a little bit of this?
Yeah.
It's okay?
Yeah.
So I bumped into another parent, mover and shaker, and they said, Damien, you got to do this. I'm like, oh, man, because no one else is going to do it.
Nobody has the guts.
So, and a little bit about me. I've been teaching music in the region forever. I've taught thousands of individuals, won a number of awards as a music producer and educator and so on and so forth. So it was just a good fit for me to kind of step up and do that. Mm-hmm. So then I said a little bit publicly, said that on my Facebook and just through a little mailing list saying, this is what I'm thinking of doing. What do you guys think of me doing this? And oh my gosh, it was on. It was insane. I mean, then the press came, and it just turned into this monster. And I don't know. I don't want to talk too much, but there's a whole story to it. Maybe I can tell a little bit more of the story. But you're an educator. You're a high school, grade school teacher.
I was elementary. Yeah.
Yes,
I actually taught at a middle school, so they had quite a good arts program for a public system, right? They had a kiln in there. I had a kiln in my classroom.
Awesome.
So I taught grades 6, 7, and 8, and it was amazing. Like the kids were so engaged in my class, and they actually came and hung it out in my classroom after school because they were like in the cool art classroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So. And I have a special education background too. So art is a language of its own. So the kids in my class who actually were nonverbal could do art, right? So it kind of encompasses anybody. You can be an artist no matter how good, bad, or whatever you are, right? Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Kind of brought together the kids who never would have been together, because they're all very cliquey. But it brought everybody together because it's its own language in itself, right? So having that option to teach through the arts, so teach English through the arts or math through the arts. There's a lot of kids who struggle with math. Oh my goodness. But if you teach it through the arts, maybe that's a different way of going about it, right? So
Absolutely, that's one thing that I mean. It was Spaulding School of the Arts that then became Central School of the Arts. But in the process, people are saying, well, is it just arts? I have a child that doesn't really fit into the general system. Can you help them? I have a special needs child. Can you help them?
Yep.
And I realized it really, and it turned from just, it never was just arts. It was math, science, history, all the above.
Absolutely.
But taught in a way in which the artistic mind can thrive.
Yeah.
Because when something's taught the right way, a C student can become an A student, and the wrong way, an A student can become a C. And this house broken
100%.
down.
Yep.
And the system is built for a certain learning style. Learning, if you're a visual learner, they can read a chalkboard, you're good. But outside of that, if you need to interact, if you need to move, if you need to think laterally,
Yeah.
I mean, you're not even allowed to question the teacher or disagree with the teacher.
Yeah. It's not, it's just such a box, right? You're
Yes.
fit into.
Yes.
Whereas if you have other avenues to get into that box,
Yes.
anybody can learn in that, right?
Yes,
So,
yes. And it's though the kids are there to raise their hand when they have the right answer. If it's the wrong answer, that's it. The thought, critical thinking, problem solving, the innate things that we do as adults on a regular, that we must do, is actually not presented on, I was going to say on a regular, but often not at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the number one things that needs to be done. Because if you can teach yourself, if you can teach yourself how to teach yourself, if you can teach yourself how to find the information you need, teach yourself how to solve your own problem, teach yourself, then you don't need someone telling you, memorize these 26 things.
Yeah.
You can factor that on your own.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting a little bit of a soapbox. I'm getting excited about this stuff and how we're impacting kind of real learning and knowledge in the lives of kids. What are some things that excites you about our day school? It's now the Spaulding Day School because rather than it just being art centered, it definitely is all of the above. But what is it about what we're doing, the project and the day school, that excites you?
I think mostly that it's not a box setting.
Right.
You know, that it's student driven. So if a child wants to learn about, you know, penguins one day, they can actually have all the different aspects about penguins through language, through math, through science, through arts, you know, so we can encompass all of that for the child. And if the child's engaged and understands that, you know, we can help them just go where they need to go at that specific time, that's going to create learning. Absolutely 100%. So
Yeah, I find student-led learning is really where it's at. We're all inquisitive. We all want to learn. We all want to learn.
totally.
But then we were put in the education factory, almost like a day prison, where the bell rings, you sit down, you behave, you ask to go pee, you know what it's like.
Yeah.
And a learning is kind of like hospitals. I don't think even mental hospitals. I don't think the most healthy place to be is in a white-walled place where the doors slam and the lighting is fluorescent and I don't know how that brings health in general.
Yeah.
And so if we create a proper learning environment that you actually want to learn, whether it, not only in facility but actually in the interaction with the teacher and the students, and get that together, that everyone wins.
Yeah,
everyone wins.
Absolutely. And the students that are at the day school already, we've had them say, you know, the parents say, the kids actually want to go to school. They used to be like crying and not want to come to school. I'd have to force them to go to school. And now they're like, is it school day yet? Right? So that's just like proof that this is a different way of helping these kids be excited about learning. Like that's what they need to be, right?
Wonderful. If you want to learn more about that, if you can do a search, Google, YouTube, whatever, search for what parents say about Spaulding Day School, you will find that. And you'll also see a video that I made a year or so ago, and we're just starting up the Wasaga Beach campus. I said campus again. She's telling me don't call it a campus. It's more of a space.
It's
not
a
like
lovely space.
It's a space. Yeah, it's not like I'm going to the campus. The Wasaga space location.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we're now starting this very space this coming year as well. And it was interesting because we started grades 4, 5, 6. At least that was a goal. And then from there, things kind of went bigger right from the get-go. We have a now JK starting in this coming year in Wasaga Beach, and we were looking at running all grades here in Barrie. We've had a few families already that wanted to join last year that couldn't make the trip to Wasaga Beach. It's already starting in Barrie. So we're looking at growing that. And we have small class sizes, so we only have 15 maximum, 15 per teacher. And so then we'll naturally grow. And the location will be here in this studio, sitting upstairs from where we're recording right now, is the day school space until we grow out of that day school space. This is Vader space, we call it. There's a gentleman, Vader, that enabled our ability to make production here, audio production, video production here, as well, and still photography, as well as the school cuisine is here and the day school is here. And then all these projects, all these cool education moments are overlapping, and we might have to grow out of the space fairly soon. But and we're just getting started. It's kind of exciting. Yeah. But that's the picture. So it's right here in the northeast end of Barrie.
And I think one of the, sorry to interrupt, one of the really good things about having all these students, different ages, different levels, they all help each other too. It's kind of like a little community. So it's not just all the grade 5s do this today and all the grade 8s do this today. It's like the grade 8s help the grade 3s, and they all kind of cross. And when you can teach someone something, you learn it the best, right?
Absolutely.
So it's just such a little community, and it's kind of like we've gone back to the old schoolhouses where everybody helps everybody, right?
Yes,
so
yes. It's a real sense of community.
Totally.
And the kids, when you have that monoculture, the grade 3s pick on the grade 2s, the grade 2s pick on the grade 1s, and where you realize that your success as a grade 6 is affirmed by the grade 4 and the grade 3s.
Yeah.
We're chatting with Anne Marie, who's running the day school program in Barrie, last week, and we're talking about how you have a project. Let's say you have a race car project. So you have the older kids doing a race car, building the race car. You have the younger kids building the track, and the really younger kids painting the track, and everyone is part of the project, whatever that is. Where there's the kids this past year in Wasaga Beach wanted to learn about water displacement. They couldn't understand water displacement because they're learning, right? So Andrea, the teacher at the Barrie campus, she says, well, let's build some boats and let's look at waters. Who can build the best boat that floats? And they had these cool competitions, and the kids were all, and they're teaching, they're going home, Mom, you'll never guess this displacement thing, and if you blah, 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 blah. It's like, really, honey? And that's really what learning should be about.
Yeah.
One of the things that I oversimplified a little bit, but I say there's 4 forms of learning. There's your visual learning, oversimplified, okay, but you got your visual learners, auditory learners, kinesthetic learners, and the other one I don't remember on the top of my head, but mainly 3 actually.
Yeah.
And sorry, it's bugging me now, but nonetheless. Your visual learners do well in class, but the kinesthetic learners, those that actually need to tinker.
They need to touch.
Actually,
and do
yes.
It, yeah.
Like if you're, for example, I remember chemistry one time in school, we were learning helium and hydrogen, right? And this is in high school. And the teacher did not want to do this experiment. I'm like, why? And he begrudgingly went to the front and he filled a balloon of helium and he filled another balloon with hydrogen.
Yeah.
And he bopped them in the air, and you saw that the hydrogen one was much more wanting to rise to the sky. The helium one had a slower rise. Well, you're seeing the atomic weight.
Yeah.
And then he took that really long fireplace lighter thingy, and he took it to the helium one and went, Vroom. And he took the hydrogen one and went, boom. And so you saw the difference even in what when you mix the nitrogen, the oxygen, the hydrogen, whereas nitrogen and so on and so forth, it has a different combustibility.
Yeah.
To this day, that's now 300 years later because I'm getting younger, and it still left an impression with me.
Totally, yeah.
And he didn't want to do the experiment because it's much easier to draw an atom on the wall with a dot saying that's 1 electron, and it's So to make an environment where you recognize, okay, at all walks of life and in all subject matter, we will make sure that we adapt that subject matter to fit the learning style of the students at hand.
Absolutely.
While also breaking it sometimes. And you take a visual learner, and I've done this as a music student actually. I've taken auditory learners, for example, in a lesson, a little half-hour lesson, and I chose not to speak the entire lesson. They thought I had laryngitis, but then I speak in the last 30 seconds. They're like, you! Oh!
Sounds like something you would do.
yeah. I taught her kid, she knows my craziness. But they learn differently. They're challenged to think differently. Yeah. They're challenged to think kinesthetically, spatially, and problem solve differently.
Yeah.
And because of that, you learn the material differently.
Yeah,
it's exciting. Sure. It truly is exciting.
Well, and you have to be able to do that in the real world when you grow up, right? Not every boss is going to be the same. So you have to be able to adapt to who you're with, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Man, it's great doing this with you. So our location in the northeast end of Barrie.
Yep.
This journey is the fulfillment of now a nearing 10-year journey that we've had together.
Yes.
I know we can end the video here because it's exciting. You got to join us at the Newberry campus. If you have a child in any grade level, I want to hear from you, whether it be high school or grade school, because we're now just taking the needs of members of the community. We're taking what you desire, because as we build a learning process around your child, we're also building an entire experience and environment around your family's needs. So it's really important. Even if you can't enroll this year because you're committed for some reason or what have you, family logistics, I still want to hear from you so that we can build a long-term program that then fulfills the needs of our community as best we can, and the needs of your family and your kids. So we definitely want to hear from you.
And we have flexibility because you don't have to have your student here 7 days a week, right? It's 2 days, 5 days, 1 day. It's very, very flexible.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's one family that they brought their one child 1 day a week, and then they were just ravenous for the learning process, and then they became full-time. And then the other I think it was younger sister, I don't teach that, this is an Andrea question, was not wanting to go to normal school anymore. And so it was one child full-time. Yes, a good problem. And then the other one's coming part-time, right? And then we're folding things in. And I think just in the last few weeks or last month or two, they finally came full-time. Don't quote me on this. I just kind of pull lots of things together. But yes, it's definitely not, you must do this. I think there's a for school, for example, I think that's 1 day a week, that kind of thing. It's not uncommon to do this.
Yeah.
So even if you wanted to try us, come out for a day, see what it's all about, see the interaction, have your child or children participate with the other kids that are there and feel that learning environment, and then come back all elated and excited and then go from there. I mean, we're very easygoing, but part-time, full-time. But we do want to hear from you for sure. But I know a lot of you in the community also want to know about the history. Whatever happened to Central School of the Arts, right? And if you look at Spaulding School of the Arts, our website, spauldingschoolofarts.com, you'll see a little write-up of the journey for Central School of the Arts. Maybe we'll make two video series. So stay tuned for the next. No, I'm going to do it anyway. So can we get into a little bit of the story behind Central School of the Arts and what your involvement was and how that went?
Yeah. So when they were taking down the old school, you had stepped in and said, "Hey, let's do a huge school or an art school."
Yes.
And I say huge because it became ginormous. It was like there's a circus in there and all sorts of stuff, right?
Yes.
So we didn't just do a school of the arts. It kind of was cuisine. There was circus. There was
there's music, there's drama, there's production, television production. There was you name it, audio production. There was we'll get into some of that stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then it kind of, because it got so big on that campus, we decided to look out onto a new place, but out in a field. You were gonna buy property. It was near an airport. It was getting
insane.
Oh my god.
You see, what happened was things went public, and the members of the community, 100,000 people, came behind us because everyone knows this is needed.
Yeah.
And that was back then, before we're in a social political environment here that's very charged and very different than, as you know, than 7 years ago. And there's an even greater need now for what we're doing.
Absolutely.
But even back then, there were 100,000 people just saying, let's go, let's do this. And we needed, I think it was 12 million or about 20 million is what we budgeted for to purchase Central High School and then start working it. We wouldn't necessarily use the whole thing. We're not going to get into the details. And then, so I needed to get funding for that. And this wild members of the community at large started calling me saying, I'm a philanthropist or I'm well funded. How can I help? And so it got to the point where even the HVAC was this dank old system that we had a local HVAC professional said, "Dude, I'm going to put one in for you. I just want to see the kids and the community impacted in the right way."
Yeah, it was amazing. Amazing who came forward. So and it just got big. So we had a local finance here looking at putting up 12 million, 12 to 20. We had another international one, I believe it out of the Caribbean, looking at putting up 20. We had another pair of investors looking to put up another 20. So we had this project funded 3 times over. And what's funny in the whole process is I could not get a price from the board. They didn't tell me I need to raise 1 million or 100 million. And finally we got to the point where
They gave me 30 days to come up with, I don't know, a $70,000 check and a non-disclosure to begin to negotiate that process. And thankfully we had the players to make that happen, except 2 of them couldn't get the funds in time and 1 ran into business logistic issues. So we could not enter the bidding process. And I think that was partially by design and how it was all cooked up. But that's fine, because one of the investors said, Damien, your project that you have is actually one of the smallest we'd ever fund. And so he gave me the challenge of, if he lift the lid on this and allowed me to build whatever I wanted, what would it look like? And I said, don't say that to me, because I tend to think really big.
Yeah, you're like way up here. Bring all the things.
Yeah. So it then, and that's where Stephanie, like, it got huge, right? And that's when you started looking at property and buying property and putting in this massive 2 performance theaters and putting in a production space. I have connections with Walt Disney and Universal and a lot of the heavies down in the United States, and so I had their attention. They wanted to step up. To this day, I'm getting calls from one guy in Atlanta saying, when are you going to do this? And anyway, so we built this massive plan. $100 million is not even touching what this plan, touching what this plan was, and not even touching. So, but we can only fund that with one major investor, and so we kind of built the scope, we built the specification, we built the 100-page business plan, and it was painful. And then we said, okay, that's done. And then we built a phasing plan that's 1 step below. That was like a $20 million plan.
Yeah.
And then behind that plan, we had the first gateway plan, which is now what we're doing now. So nearing 10 years later, we have this massive journey ahead. And if you really want to know what that journey is, you can reach out. And I'm transparent. Enough time has passed. I won't get in trouble for sharing anything. but I share with you the big vision and some of the connections that we've made. But knowing that your child and your family now is going to be nurtured, that the goal is to not only do primary and secondary, but post-secondary, the whole 9 yards turnkey here. And the interest from people in the community for that to happen is monumental. I'm glad to be delivering this for everybody.
Yeah, it's a lovely place to learn. It just is not like any other place you've ever experienced. Absolutely.
All right. So I'm thinking through the memories of something. So many precious moments in the school. I'm glad to be a part of it. It's much bigger than any 1 or 10 people. It's huge, and I'm glad that you're a part of it. So to reach out to us, reach us spauldingschoolyarts.com or spauldingdayschool.com. We're just putting together a new website, and then from there also reach us. I'll probably put coordinates on the screen, but 877-665-7802. I'm Damien Spaulding. This is Stephanie Lampron. I call her Donna. Who of you have seen the show Suits? You know Donna in Suits? You know how Donna was just absolutely amazing at like everything, and she knew Donna. Like, unbelievable. The things that we did, even with the investors and the movements we did, I could not have done it without Donna. So I'm glad that you're here. Glad to be doing this with you, and I definitely want to hear from you. We're starting the Barrie campus this coming September. We have a few families confirmed, and we're looking at confirming a few more so we can completely dovetail the learning process to you in advance to our start. Okay, so catch us up. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think you've said plenty.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We had another Spaulding feature. Stay tuned. There's lots of cool Spaulding features coming up as well with musicians and other cool conversations, and we look forward to having you here on top of the Spaulding Day School programs coming. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.